I think we can keep this simple today, but it has to do with the idea that the project isn't really the point. And this is applicable with school. It's applicable to the questions around GPT and AI and image generation. It's applicable to what I do in Home Team. It's applicable to why I teach game development and so on. And the idea here being that what happens is, because of what I do, right? I've helped people release, 180 games out of Home Team in the past 7 or 8 years, 500 out of all the communities I've founded over the years. And sometimes what happens is somebody sees that I've done video courses and stuff to help beginners, codeyourfirstgame.com, and they think, oh, okay, well, you know what? I have an app that's for you. I'll help you help people make games without having to write any code. And it's simpler and that's nice. That's valid. There's nothing wrong with that. Except here's what is wrong with it. What's wrong with it is that wanting people to learn the general life skill of how to write programming is, to me, a major reason why I do what I do. That it'd be like going to an English teacher and being like, hey, you know what? Your students don't need to learn to write anymore. They can go to ChatGPT and ask it for a story. Now they don't need to learn to write a story. But again, the point wasn't really that story. The point was the fact that through the process of having to learn to write that story yourself, you become better equipped to do other things in your life. It opens up other things in your future, gives you better understanding, gives you a better detailed grasp of what's going on around you. You'll come across as more fluent, more capable. You have more options in your life, either whether it's to work for others or work for yourself or do other things or just create. It builds on your necessity of doing the thing. And so again, that's what I'm going to say. The project isn't the point. It's like if you can get a flashier game, but in the process, you didn't actually level up your art skills. You didn't actually learn to write. You didn't actually learn to write program code, etc. Well, the point wasn't that the project now exists. There wasn't actually, in many cases, some market demand for a beginning tier project. There was instead a need to enrich yourself. It's a bit like when we go to jog. It's not to have covered the distance. It's to have improved ourselves inside. When we lift weights, it's not to have changed where in the room the weights are. It's to, again, improve ourselves. And then seeing things through this lens changes, perhaps, which projects you pick. And it's a common part when I'm in Home Team. It's sort of like a professional progression plan if you were in a company. But we figure out, okay, what are you trying to learn? And the kind of games that they build to build their way up to what they want to do may be different than the kind of game they want to build up towards. But it's things that are instead targeting and focusing on, okay, between here and finishing this project, it's going to involve overcoming those challenges to the things that I don't yet know how to do. I want to be the kind of person who knows how to do, understands, who has that skill set. And then again, what's nice about, and again, I totally respect not invalidating tools that help people, for example, skip using GitHub. But if you can use GitHub, it's a helpful life skill. Not trying to diminish things that say you don't need to learn to write code to do a certain kind of app. And again, those apps can exist in the world, and that's all fine. But what it does mean, though, is that same person now is less capable of going to do something else in their life that involves adjacent technical understanding, that involves a deeper sense of what's going on. And let me also clarify, I have another video that shows some examples of it's possible. There are ways to incorporate ChatGPT or other things in your process, or even internally for images and so on, where it's part of communication, it's part of process, part of brainstorming, it's part of giving feedback from the system, it's part of trying to check and see and compare and contrast and troubleshoot. There are ways to incorporate into the learning process. But what you don't lose sight of is that the point isn't the project. The project is you. That's the point. And that's something that skips it. It's like when people are like, oh, well, you know what, because of such and such, now we have the asset store. Now we have all these piles of infinite free assets. We no longer need teammates. The point is to learn how to work with other people. The point is to learn how to communicate and coordinate, to see where they have different recognition goals, interests than you do, to recognize that is a life skill beyond the project. That is not just about, well, the only way to make this thing exist is, guess we got to work together. There's a little bit of that. But really, it's how that applies to the other bigger projects in our lives, in life around us, in culture and organizations. There's this guy I met tonight, and this is, I don't mean to diminish this person individually, so I'm not going to mention my name or anything. Very accomplished, good guy, done good things out there, all that. But he very much focuses on solo development, does it all himself, only a solo developer, yada, yada, yada. And all I hear from that, and again, this is going to sound harsh, is that lacks the emotional maturity requisite for adult life to interact constructively with others, to know how to make it work, to know how to coordinate on, you have different strengths, interests, abilities, and needs than I do. Can we put together what we do? Or even perhaps, and this has been a case for much of my career, right? I might be better at something than somebody else. I might have had more years doing it, but to still recognize that if I can involve others in it, it is in fact still better for me, and in many cases too, also better for them. Creating an opportunity by extending, if I don't just hoard my experience in this field, and instead open it up to, let's do this together. Let's learn together. Let's work through this together. Let's really, in the same sense again, where could you have ChatGPT avoid your need to learn how to write a sentence? Probably. Could you have a graphing calculator learn how to not need to do some math by hand? Probably. But you're going to hit a much shorter ceiling of how far you can take that, how far you can get into the details and make it your own and have a reason for understanding why things are one way or the other. And the same thing is applicable as well, again, at a human team interaction level. That I think for many cases, what happened was we had the opportunities structured into our educational pipeline to do team projects and so on. But because the focus was on the project or the way that it was taught or the way the teacher was, or most fundamentally, we just didn't care about the subject matter, we didn't get out of it what we were supposed to have got out of it. And that's unfortunate, and it's structural. I don't blame the teachers for that. This is a typical thing. But it is a difference of the reason why I teach through making video games is because people care about the output. It's an authentic, actual project-based thing where I want my thing to be better. I want my thing to do a certain thing. And between me and knowing how to make it do that thing, I've got to figure this out. I got to learn this other skill. I got to get practice at it, good at it. And we start to see those rewards, those payoffs. Just like, again, I know the metaphors drives people crazy, but it's been like, if I can see my running times improve, if I can see my lifting weights improve, when I can see over time, over project after project and releasing throughout the year that I am now able to do things I wasn't before because I have improved my skills, because I've improved my knowledge, my fluency, my comfort, my social aptitude for navigating team environments and so on. That's a great thing. That's our growth, and it's an indicator of enriching opportunities, again, opening other doors, other opportunities, things we can do for ourselves, do for others. But part of what happens is that we have these different things that help us skip the need for it, to avoid the need, to try to skip the need to learn the details, to skip the need to get firsthand experience doing it. Not that I got a flashier result without having to become the person I needed to be. That negates that the real point all along was really to become the person that you need to be. Not just for this project, for the whole rest of your life. Anyway, that's it for now. Could probably ramble on this all day since dedicated my life work to it. But we'll leave it there. Catch you another day. Thanks for following along. Bye for now.